Having received heaven's mandate, the emperor now faces south and enters the Temple of Heaven, where he completes a further set of sacrificial rites and rituals designed to purify himself so that heaven's mandate now reaches its final stage and is able to connect all things and thus fulfill its empowerment on earth. In acupuncture, this occurs at the point called Ming Tang, the Bright Hall, another name for the Temple of Heaven. This point on the body is located on the center of the forehead, just above the hairline, and is where one fulfills their destiny by connecting appropriately to all things.
So, the Temple of Heaven, this compound that we're about to enter, is one of two situations in which ancient Chinese emperors went through ceremonial rituals and sacrifices in order to align themselves with the will of heaven. The emperor is doing this as a representative, as the go-between between all people and heaven. So the emperor had to align himself with heaven so that the whole country would gain the beneficent influences of heaven, which means in ancient times primarily rain, good harvests, fertility, those kinds of things. So there were the two ways of doing it. The older way was going to the mountain, because the top of the mountain is the closest place on earth you can get to heaven. And that's more of a primitive way to do it. It's rugged. You gotta get out there and you gotta climb and risk yourself. You could be up on top of the mountain and bam, lightning could come and that would be the end of it. So you have to pray to heaven about why you're going there, what you want to do there, what is your purpose, and what you're going to do with the power if you get it. So in order to I think what we should do is we should start over on this side. This is the east and this is the west. This is where the emperor would fast and start to get away from his material inclinations. Food, sex, politics, everything, just to begin to organize his mind to attune to heaven. And then on the more west of that is where the music hall was, the divine music hall was. What we're going to find there is going to set the tone for what the emperor does in the rest of the complex. He's going to empty himself out in the fasting palace, and then these tones are going to come in, and they're going to set the tone through music for everything else that goes on. And we'll talk more what those tones mean when we get there. And there's 9 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 represents the completion of heaven's force into the material world. And 9 times 9 is the ultimate completion of that. And that's the 81 chapters in the Tao Te Ching.
这个宋词，和唐诗一样，学习手的。等我出面不觉晓了，就好了，你会唐诗吗？用水写，你看它一会儿就干了吧？
一会儿就干了。
哎，干得很晒些，它也不污染环境，很棒。
So we're now in one of the main halls in the Temple for Music, where they did ritual music in order to prepare the emperor for his contact with heaven. So this temple is rich in symbology. And on the top we see this rich, elaborate system of beams holding the roof. The central top beam that runs across the lengthwise part of the roof that holds the roof on each side is where the original idea of Taiji comes from. The character Ji depicts the ridgepole, that particular ridgepole, and it divides into two, the two eaves of the roof, and that represents yin and yang and all the aspects of yin and yang. So Taiji is as an embodiment, as an exercise that you do to recapitulate all of these things and return to source, in the same way that the emperor is doing in these sacrifices that this whole temple complex is organized around. So here's the emperor walking along between the armored guards and up through all the heads of state and the musicians up to the temple, through the three-legged cauldrons where the final offering is made. Saying, it's like going through and seeing all this, being actually here, being able to put my arm around the three-legged bird and climb the steps of heaven and hear the bell. It helps me externalize the journey that I've been on for the last 30 years. It helps me get beyond my intellectual understanding. It helps me get beyond all my understandings, my intuitional understanding, my gut level understanding. And it helps me see what I've done to put all these things together to make it work for me. How it makes my Tai Chi practice work, and how my Tai Chi practice makes my healing practice work, which helps me understand the path of life that I'm on.